As the controversy continues between President Obama and the Republican Senate over the appointment of a new Supreme Court justice, the White House now faces additional questions about the president's plans to skip the funeral of Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia. Instead, the president will pay his respects on Friday when Scalia's body lays in repose at the Supreme Court. The president's non-attendance is raising questions about whether Mr. Obama's absence is a political snub. Let's discuss it with our panel. First, Skyping in from Santa Barbara, California, the former mayor of Cincinnati, Ken Blackwell, who's currently a senior fellow at the Family Research Council. And joining us from Newsmax, Washington, my old colleague in Congress, Michael Patrick Flanagan, who's currently the president of Flanagan Consulting. So, Ken, first to you, what do you make of this? Is it a snub by Mr. Obama?
I think it's a snub, but I don't think it's a surprising snub. You remember he chastised the Supreme Court at a State of the Union address. And so now that he's looking at the body of what he considered to be a nemesis, a conservative nemesis in state, I'm sure he's not going to give it its proper, give Scalia his proper respect while he's there for all of the world to pay, a tribute to him. Look, at the end of the day, this guy snubbed Winston Churchill. What should surprise you about that?
Well, let me talk to Michael Patrick Flanagan, who frequently educates us in the Chicago way, having represented that city in the nation's capital. Kenny just cited what went on when the president, at a State of the Union message, lectured the Supreme Court over the Citizens United case. And yet at the same time, last Friday, he comes out talking about building bridges and working together. What is it with the president? Is it Chicago politics or something else at work? Why would he miss a chance to build his image and to say good things and talk about working together to try and advance his own nominee?
This is you talk like a good Republican, JD, and God bless you for it. You want everybody to like you. You want to serve all the people. You want to be everybody's president. You hope the president wants to be he doesn't want to be everybody's president. He wants to be his base's president, and everybody else is his enemy. And as long as everybody else is his enemy, his base stays his friend. This is why Hillary, for example, observes that her only enemy on earth are Republicans. And this Obama is cut from the same cloth. And so you don't go to their funerals. You chide them, you deride them, you go golfing, you do whatever you got to do. And you have just enough talk about let's work together and let's do this other stuff so that the New York Times has a quote when someone like you or me makes the charge that you're bitterly partisan. He says, no, he wants to work together. It's a lie from his lips. It's a lie when it's printed. He doesn't mean it. He doesn't want it. He's absolutely all about serving his bitter partisan base because he's a bitter partisan himself.
And speaking of bitter partisanship, well, let's talk about the presidential campaign. Donald Trump made a bold statement in regards to a new poll taken by the Wall Street Journal and NBC News. Let's listen to what the Donald had to say.
I have never done well in the Wall Street Journal poll. I think somebody at Wall Street Journal doesn't like me, but I never do well with the Wall Street Journal poll. So I don't know. They do these small samples, and I don't know exactly what it represents.
Now, he also said Rupert Murdoch may have been behind this. Ken Blackwell, you read the editorial page of the Journal. It is unabashedly open borders and anything for money. Does Donald have a point?
I think the Wall Street Journal, NBC poll, and the Pope, they have in fact teed this up for Donald Trump. It's firing up his base. If he was ever losing ground in South Carolina, they might have given him a slow underhand pitch to knock out of the park. And that's a bit irritating for those of us who are strict constitutionalists and who would like to see someone that is wedded to the Constitution and the free market system advance in this contest.
We're going to have more on the Pope when we bring you back on the panel after the break. But Michael Patrick Flanagan, given your background as a member of Congress and as an attorney, let me get your take on the controversy right now involving Apple and the FBI. 30 seconds. What's the right answer on the iPhone that was used by the San Bernardino killers?
My guess is Apple will prevail. The Justice Department is asking for something reasonable, at least in the minds of most people, but it is an invasion of the corporate context. I don't see Apple winning or losing at the court level. I think once having won, then they may turn it over voluntarily, but they have to set the precedent of winning this. And so I think they'll cooperate after the case, but not before.
All right, so they're going to end up being good guys. They're going to make their point, but it is a bit scary. I understand the context of privacy, but do trade secrets really trump national security? They'll argue, obviously, that it does, and we'll see what the courts say. Listen, we appreciate your take on this. We want you both to hang in there. But to you at home, what do you think of the Apple question and the other issues covered? Send us your comments at newsmaxtv.com/comments. Back with Ken and Michael right after this.
For a religious leader to question a person's faith is disgraceful. I'm proud to be a Christian, and as president, I will not allow Christianity to be consistently attacked and weakened, unlike what is happening now with our current president.
Donald Trump earlier today reacting to the comments of Pope Francis. You may recall the Pope said earlier that, in essence, Donald Trump is not Christian if he continues to pledge to build a wall along the Mexican border. This, of course, raising concerns that the pontiff has become too involved in the political arena. Let's talk about it more with the gentleman we welcome back from the break. And first of all, we've got Ken Blackwell, a senior fellow at the Family Research Council, and the president of Flanagan Consulting, former Congressman Michael Patrick Flanagan. Now, Mike, Ken started down this road a little earlier, but I want to get your take on the man who would be president and the man who is the Pope and this controversy.
Well, I as Catholic as they come, I'll tell you that I'm reminded of the dissident in Cuba who, right after the Pope was saying, throwing paeans to the Castro brothers, he said, "I feel like a Catholic without a Pope." This guy is one of the great media mavens of all time. I'd use a different word, except we're talking about the Pope, battling one of the other media mavens of all time, and these two are going to feed off each other for a while. I think the Pope really doesn't know what he's talking about, and I think a lot of what he says is colored by his South American roots and an innate prejudice against the United States. I really think that colors a lot of it. He was born in Argentina, he grew up with the Argentinian War and how we helped the British against the Argentinians, and I think that there is a prejudice in him that just is innate, that's against the United States, and I think it surfaces every so often in cases like this.
So, Kenny, 20 seconds. Is the Pope being anti-Trump as an extension of being anti-American?
Look, I just think I had images of Trump and those two Corinthians standing at the border with their pitchforks, saying, "Get back." Look, there's a lot of contradiction there. And when you look at the fact that the Vatican is a walled, state, it really doesn't make sense. The Pope, in terms of his worldview, is in fact left of center. He's a redistributionist, and as I said before, this just tees up an underhand slow pitch to Trump to knock out of the park.
All right, and we will have to end it right there. Ken Blackwell and Michael Patrick Flanagan, you have our thanks. And now it's time for the way you see it, your comments via social media. You've been writing in about the FBI and Apple. Let's go first to Alan, and here's what Alan has to say. Tim Cook of Apple should be in jail for contempt of court. He's obstructing a murder investigation and a security problem for fellow citizens. Mr. Bundy is in jail for standing up to the Bureau of Land Management. We really have our priorities messed up. Next, it's Neil who writes in, JD, I usually appreciate your excellent commentary, but when it comes to Apple giving security codes to our government, you're very wrong. The government can't even keep hackers out of their feeble $6 billion websites. If Apple gives them a back door, it's like giving a master key to all of our American households. And Paul writes, the solution is very simple. The FBI hands the phone over to Apple. Apple extracts information from the cell phone and relocks it. Apple returns cell phone and extracted information to the FBI. No threat to other Apple phones, no threat to privacy, no threat of lowered sales due to future consumers who would doubt security should the FBI have software to unlock any phone. And then there's Scott. who says he has a simple solution. He writes, JD, this cell phone is a no-brainer. Just have the FBI drop it off at Apple and have them unlock it. Duh. Gee, I wonder, go to the Genius Bar, huh? Next, it's Benjamin Franklin writing in. He says, JD, I have no axe to grind with the Club for Growth, but frankly, I'm sick and tired of these and others scolding us and telling us who to vote for. Politicians have shown us every single time that they do not represent us when they get to D.C., and I, along with others, are sick and tired of being told what we want to hear. I want real change and someone to speak for me. Well, actually, Ben, you did a pretty good job of speaking for yourself, and we'd like you to speak out. Send me your comments at newsmaxtv.com/comments. That'll do it for tonight. For those you see and those you don't, J.D. Hayworth saying stay brave, stay free, stay tuned.